get time before they're like, oh, fortified. I'm like, can y'all give my baby some time to grow? Oh yeah, okay, Paso, we are back at it again with another video. Today's video is different. It's gonna be a little chit chat, okay? So before I get into this video, make sure you like, make sure you comment, and make sure you subscribe, because why would you want to miss a video? Because you're a hater? Right, you're not a hater, so that means you have to subscribe. So if you read by the title, in today's video I will be discussing being a parent of a child with CHD, or a CHD diagnosis. If you don't know what that is a congenital heart disease. Okay, so before I start asking questions, answering questions that I was asked via Instagram, I'm just going to go into the beginning. So during my 20-week anatomy scan, they found a hole in my son's heart, and basically they were like, we need to schedule an echo, which an echo is a look specifically at the heart. It's an ultrasound, but they look specifically at the heart. So I think I got the anatomy scan on Monday. They said everything else was good but his heart, and then they were like, this week we want to get an echo, and I think I got that on like Thursday. Yeah, I got that on like Thursday because it was Halloween. Yeah, so what they ended up finding was that our son has 2 holes in his heart. He has one in the top, which divides his aorta, and then he has one in the left chamber. So what they diagnosed him with was ASD and VSD. So ASD is atrial septal defect, and then VSD is ventricular septal defect. So like I said, there is a split in his aorta where it's obviously supposed to be connected, and then in the bottom, in the left chamber, there's also a hole. So that was his diagnosis. They said because everything else was looking great, that they didn't need to deliver him preterm, and I could carry him full term, which I was thanking the Lord about. Like, I was thanking God. They also said if little boy wasn't being difficult, then I could have had a vaginal birth. I could have did my whole natural water birth and everything. Right. The only thing was, because he was basically using me to survive, that as soon as he was born, they would have to take him and start medication through his navel. So with that, when I had my C-section, I was able to do skin to skin. I was able to hold him for a little bit. My husband was able to, you know, hold him, cut his cord, all that or whatever. And then right after that, my husband had to go with them when they took him to put the medicine in his navel, because they needed to wait. I think like they waited like a day or two. I had to wait like a day or two to do an echo and diagnose exactly what was going on. So that was even more reason why they were like, you can carry him full term, because they couldn't tell what procedure / surgery they needed to do until he was born anyway. So there was no point in trying to rush it. They were okay with him growing. Of course, I got interrupted, so I don't even remember what I was saying. I think I was saying about how the procedure, or what they were doing before they took him to get the medication through his belly, and then took him to the PCTU, which is pediatric let me look it up, because I'm finna tell y'all the wrong thing. Pediatric cardiac intensive care unit. So that's where he was. He was in the pediatric cardiac intensive care unit. So people kept saying, like, oh, he was in NICU. No, he wasn't in the NICU. He was in I think they call it the PICU. Yeah. So that's where he was while they figured out what surgery he needed, and then after he did his healing there before he went up to the moderate care floor. Let me go see if the baby's awake, because I think my mom just woke him up. So I think that is all of the logistics. So now I can get to the questions. So first question, which I already kind of explained in the beginning, CHD definition. So CHD is congenital heart disease. So there's a lot of different defects and diseases or whatever that can fall under that branch. Like I said, baby Peanut, his specific diagnosis was ASD and VHD. His specific diagnosis was ASD and VSD, which again is atrial septal defect and ventricular septal defect. So I'm gonna give you the dictionary definition of it. Anyway, that was my definition. So, a general term for a range of birth defects that affect the normal way the heart works. So, if I'm not mistaken, it can be said as congenital heart disease or congenital heart defect. So, that's what it is. Now, the ASD, which is what I explained kind of briefly before, is a hole in the wall separating the heart's two upper chambers. So that's the first hole he had. VSD, a hole in the wall separating the heart's two lower chambers. So there is a chance that with this diagnosis that the holes could close on their own. In SJ's case, that did not happen, which is why he needed surgery after birth. Now, there were two different procedures that he could have gotten. Procedure one was they fix him, they, close the holes, good to go. He'll never need surgery again. Second surgery is they kind of do a temporary fix, and then once he gets older and bigger and, heavier, then they'll do the full repair, which was repair number one. Now, SJ was only 5 pounds. So with that being said, they were like, doing the first one, that's a bad idea, because he was too small and the recovery would have taken a lot longer, and it would have made him very sick. Because with the first repair, they have to I forgot how he explained it. I think he said something about putting him on a breathing machine and making his body cold, kind of real scary stuff. And it just would have been a lot for his little 5-pound body. So that's why they opted not to do that and to do the second procedure. And then once he's older, when they say older, they mean before he turns a year old. That's when they will do the full repair. So what does our day-to-day look like? First things first, SJ has to get medicine 3 times a day. In the morning, he gets a set of medication. In the evening, he does. Now, let's get this straight. One of the medications is just, what do you call that stuff? Pepsid, because it helps with reflux and making sure he doesn't spit up and all the other stuff or whatever. And the reason he's taking that is because when we were in the hospital, his oxygen numbers were kind of dropping, and they were dropping around the times that he would just get finished with the bottle. So we were like, does he have, acid reflux or whatever? So that's when we started that medication. So he doesn't necessarily need that one, but when I decided to take him off of it temporarily, it did seem like he was slightly spitting up a bit more, so I was like, okay, we can just leave him on there for now. And then he has to do, one of the medications is an inhaler, so he has to do the inhaler in the morning, evening, and afternoon. So the reason for the inhaler is because when they went to go see what was going on with his saturation meaning his oxygen, they were looking at his lungs and were looking and seeing that it seemed like his lungs were, you know, just kind of slightly almost underdeveloped. So they were thinking that an inhaler would work, so that's why he's been getting the inhaler 3 times a day. And then, like I said, along with the other medications that he gets in the morning and in the afternoon, in the evening. Now, the other medications, they help, I think, to reduce like blood clotting and stuff like that, as well as to help with any excess fluid, to help drain that out of his system. Now, aside from that, appointment. So as soon as we got home, which was almost 2 months ago now, almost 2 months ago now, he started getting a home visit from a nurse from the hospital. So he would get that once a week. And that literally just stopped last week because he has been progressing and doing well by the grace of God. Like once a week, and I'm like, and then aside from that, we have virtual visits once a week with his like case manager, and she's the one who monitors CHD cases who become outpatient. So it's her and the nutritionist that we meet with once a week virtually, and we talk about his weight, we talk about his breathing, has that been going well, all of those things. We talk about what happens if his weight decreases, and if his weight decreases, what they're going to do, which is what most kind of doctors recommend, is either giving him formula or fortifying my breast milk with formula. Now, the reason why I particularly have been against fortifying my breast milk is because I don't think he needs it. There has never been 3 or more days, knock on wood, that he has lost weight or not gained weight. They told me they wanted to fortify when we were still in the hospital, but to me, they didn't give him a chance to grow. When he was first born, because they were going to do a surgery, he did not get milk at all. Only way he got milk is if I put some on a cotton swab and, like, you know, kind of did oral care in his mouth, or dipped his passy in the milk and, you know, put it in his mouth like that. But he did not drink milk or get milk in his system until the 2nd week that he was born. Yeah, the 2nd week. So we have those virtual visits. No, I was talking about the formula. Yeah, so when he first was born, he didn't even get time before they were like, oh, fortify. And I'm like, can y'all give my baby some time to grow? Why are we over here putting all this pressure on him? And he didn't even start drinking milk right away. Like, not to mention, everybody knows that once babies are born, they go down from their initial birth weight, and then they have to, you know, gain back up to their birth weight. So I'm like, he has that along with these heart issues. Why are y'all expecting him to grow that fast? No. So the second I said no and I stuck to it, he ended up gaining weight, and they were like, wow, he's gaining so fast. I know. And that's been the same thing with why I don't want to now. Now, don't get me wrong, if it's been 3 days consistently where he has not gained and he's drinking every ounce of his bottle, then okay, we can talk about fortifying. But that has not happened. Anytime that he has not gained weight or anytime that he has lost weight, it's been because we have a doctor's appointment and that throws off his eating to where we can't, you know, just sit and let him focus on the bottle. Or when he had his vaccines, he was extremely tired. Thank God he didn't get a fever or anything, but he was not trying to focus on drinking a bottle because this boy was sleepy. So that on top of his cardiology appointments, and those are 3 hours long. So again, if we're going to a 3 hour long appointment, when am I able to sit down and actually give him a bottle if they're constantly doing stuff with him? It's not gonna happen. I can tell you right now, it's not gonna happen. So that is like the day-to-day. I will say the cardiology appointments are usually spaced out like once a month. His pediatrician is also in the loop of what's going on. At first we were seeing her like every 2 weeks. For now, I don't think we have to see her for a while. And then we just have to keep up with the appointment with the nutritionist and the nurse practitioner that are virtual appointments. Now, what you hear in the back is his oxygen. He has to be on oxygen. After they did the procedure, he went on, they took him off the breathing tube, then they put him on a CPAP, then they put him on a heated high flow, which is below a CPAP, and then they put him on the wall oxygen. And granted, he did very well when they eventually took him off. He was able to be off oxygen for like, I think it was like almost a week that he was off. Now, even though he was off, for some reason, like after a bottle, like I was saying, his saturations were going down. So they were in like the 80s, 90s, kind of, I think maybe like 70s and 80s. And they would go down to like 50s, 60s. And that's not supposed to happen. And so they decided to put him back on oxygen, and then they would see that like his numbers weren't increasing, or once it would drop down to 50, 60, then eventually it would go back up on its own. But at the same time, when we come home, he's not be able to, you know, hooked up to a machine that can tell us his oxygen every minute of the day, right? So in that case, they were like, okay, we're going to send you home on oxygen, especially once they realized that there was nothing that they could personally do that was going to help him out. So he is on oxygen. That's the noise that you hear right now. That is the stationary oxygen that stays in the house. And then he has, he has a portable oxygen machine. And then he has 2 of the like can ones that, you know, for just in case power outages, all the other stuff or whatever. So that's pretty much the day-to-day. This is the nasal cannula. Okay, I think he's so tired. He doesn't like being on the nasal cannula. He actually can't stand it. He pulls it all the time. We constantly have to fix it. And then the tape that you use is messing up his face. So we kind of have to go without it because his face will get irritated very fast when we put the tape and the little oxygen stickers on his face. Also, a part of this like outpatient program, we have to weigh him every night, and then we have to take his oxygen every night, which I have to put that in the system because I forgot to from last night. And what else? Yeah, and I have to put it in the system. So our day-to-day is very, yeah. And he has to get fed every 3 hours. Now granted, most babies have to get fed every 2 to 3 hours, but when I say every 3 hours, that means at night too. So we don't really get much sleep because they wanted us to, you know, wake him up every 3 hours so he can eat, because they want him to gain weight so we can get this next surgery. So every 3 hours, clockwork. And let me say, the 3 hours be going by so fast, like seriously so fast, it's actually sick. So the every 3 hours can be a lot we just now are going to start to revisit that, and you know, at some points go every 4 when we increased a couple of his bottles. But yeah, other than that, every 3 hours. Why are you fussing? Why are you fussing? Now, let's see. How do I take care of myself mentally? That's a very good question, and I really wish I could answer that. Why are you fussing? Yeah, I wish I could answer that. I really don't know. So what's the matter? Like, I would have to say a lot of prayer. Working out is my, I guess, alone time, kinda. Sleep when I do get sleep. But other than that, really just trying to stay strong in my faith, because it definitely can be a lot. And like, women deal with postpartum already, postpartum anxiety, depression, all those other things. So me trying to like dodge those things on top of having a baby with CHD, like it definitely can be a lot. Why are you fussing? What are some resources that I use? So I definitely did a lot of research after after he was diagnosed with it, and after they saw what they saw during the echo. I just kind of looked up just anything online to see, you know, especially about like, can it close or whatever. And then also the hospital gave us a lot of resources and papers and pamphlets and all those other things. That's pretty much all. When I was pregnant though, I didn't want to look too deep into everything, just because I was an emotional wreck. When they told me, I was boo-hooing, like literally boo-hooing. And so I wanted to take the news as it was, and then just kind of let God handle the rest, because if not, it was just too much. Like, I was trying to be as positive throughout the rest of my pregnancy as possible, and doing too much research, it definitely would have been too much emotionally on me, and I wanted to try to avoid that as much as possible. Stress and mental health. So I will say the only thing that's really stressful is when it comes to him finishing bottles. Like, what is wrong? What is wrong? What's wrong? What's wrong? What's the matter? Yeah, the only thing that's really stressful is when it comes to his weight gain. Like, if he's not gaining weight, which like I said, it's usually never been more than a couple of days, it is very stressful, because I know that they're going to be like, okay, he needs to fortify, which again is not the worst thing ever, but I just be like, oh, come on. Especially because, like, if I ever did have to fortify, I want him to get like top-notch formula, like, you know. So I'm not gonna just buy some random cheap, no, I'm gonna say random, some cheap formula just to call it a day. And then also because he's funny with bottles for me. When it comes to his dad, he can finish bottles quickly, swiftly, quick, fast, and in a hurry. When it comes to me, he be playing games, and it can be so frustrating because it feels like we're like fighting each other, because it's like, why don't you want to finish this bottle for your mother? Like, I don't understand why you're doing this to me. Something that can also be stressful is that because he has to get in a certain amount of ounces a day, I'm not able to breastfeed as much, and that is a little bit hurtful, especially because I wasn't able to have the birth that I wanted to, because they want him to get a set amount of ounces. When you breastfeed, you can't tell how many ounces the baby gets, so I'm only able to breastfeed in between bottles, which I don't want to stuff him, so it's like, when am I supposed to, you know, try to breastfeed him? And it's now to the point where he could really care less about my boob. Like, he be making me feel so bad because he will make faces and he would do like this, and like, you know, he made me feel so bad, like my boob is like the scum of the earth. So he'll really only breastfeed when he feels like it. Other than that, like, I'm thankful that yes, he's getting my breast milk, but it's, you know, still. Altered guidelines. When it comes to guidelines, it's pretty much not a free-for-all, but it doesn't have that many guidelines. It's just, with this heart defect, until his heart is fully repaired, his immune system isn't as strong as normal babies could be. So God forbid, if he was to get something, it could land him in the hospital. So we are very careful right now of who we go around and where we take him and stuff like that, because we would not want him to get sick or for him to end up back in the hospital, because that's not what we're trying to do. We were in the hospital for 3 weeks. I promise you, it felt like months. So that's pretty much the only one. I mean, besides like having to carry the oxygen everywhere, which can definitely be exhausting, but you know, we're gonna do what we have to do for our baby. But it definitely definitely can put a damper on things. And I will say too, like, the portable oxygen doesn't last forever. Like, it can die. So we have to make sure it's fully charged before it leaves to go anywhere. And along with that, it preferably a place that has a charger or outlet accessible, because like I said, if we have to be there for a long time, then, you know. So that, along with the guidelines of, like, you know, having to feed him every 3 hours and having to make sure he's getting a certain amount of ounces every 3 hours. Hey, why are you fussing? Why is that baby fussing? Anyway, let me answer this last question so I can go pump and feed him this next bottle. Will CHD affect him growing up? No. I'm saying no. Jesus says no. So the answer is no. So once he gets this next surgery, they are saying that everything when he gets this next surgery, they're saying that everything will be fine. You know, once they close the 2 holes that are there and take out the stent and the plastic bands that they put around his pulmonary artery, then he will be okay. Now, granted, will he still have to get like checkups or whatever to make sure everything's good? Yes, he will need to continue doing that, which is fine. I'd rather be safe than be sorry. But other than that, I've heard a lot of stories of children who are now like grown, who have had CHD or had 2 holes in their heart, and once they got the repair and once they got the surgery, they went on to live perfectly normal lives. So that is what we are praying for. Of course, we don't want anything less. We're not expecting anything less, because this baby, oh my gosh, is already exceeding expectations. Like, before we took him home, they were like, well, you know, most of our CHD patients end up needing feeding tubes. So they showed us how to put the feeding tube in and everything, because he was on a feeding tube temporarily. Us, everybody in our village, we're declaring out of our mouths every day, he's not going to need a feeding tube. He's not going to need a feeding tube. He's not going to need a feeding tube. We kept saying he's not going to need a feeding tube. Like, thank y'all for showing us this, but this baby is not going home with a feeding tube. We kept saying it over and over and over again. And so what ended up happening? He did not leave the hospital with a feeding tube, okay? I want to say he had the feeding tube and he got it on Friday when, did he get on Friday? No, he got it on maybe like Saturday or Sunday after his surgery. And then it was only in for like maybe a week and a half, and that was it. But I'm like, I told you, like, I told you, my God is very mighty and he does miraculous things every day. This baby's not going home on a feeding tube, and he didn't. He also got off of the breathing machine very fast, very fast. Like, they were very surprised at how quickly he did not need the breathing machine. Why are you fussing? Yeah, they were very surprised, and I'm like, right, because this is a different baby we're dealing with, man. This baby is built different, okay? What else? Oh, when it came to him finishing his bottles, and that's why we knew he wasn't gonna need a feeding tube. Stinks. We knew he wasn't gonna need a feeding tube because when they gave him his first bottle, he sucked that thing down so fast. What is wrong? He was trying to lift his head up early. He was trying to hold his bottle during the first month. Yeah, he was trying to hold his own bottle during the first month. Like, this baby really, really exceeding expectations. Like, 10 out of 10. So, as far as, like, regular life, like, and even now, like, the nasal cannula bothers him because he doesn't like it on his face. But he still goes on about his regular business. Me mugging people, smiling, talking. Oh my gosh, this baby yaps. Like, I'm about to insert a video. Look, it's the foot. Yeah. Foot. Whoa. You like the little foot? Yeah. Oh, yeah. You tell me you have 2 feet? Say, I have 2 feet, mommy. I have 2 feet. And mommy has 2 feet. Yeah. What else? Oh, for real? You're so silly. This baby can talk. Like, he's very alert. And the nurses and doctors were saying that as soon as he was born, they're like, oh my gosh, he's so alert. I'm like, yeah, because my baby's built different. You feel me? Like, this baby is built different. This baby is a survivor. Like, so as stressful as this situation is, we are almost to the finish line when it comes to, you know, appointments. Baby boy. when it comes to appointment, medications, his next surgery, all of those things or whatever. So we just want to, you know, continue to be prayerful, continue that to pray that God gives us the strength and the patience to deal with this. What's crazy about him crying is he don't finish bottles for me. So he crying for his bottle that's warming up, and he don't even want to finish it when I give it to him. Yeah, so that's all the questions that people sent me. If you have any more questions, please feel free to comment below. I would love to answer them. I would show you. I'm about to go feed this baby once this bottle is done and pumped. As usual, make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. And I will see y'all in the next video.